if the whole world is an illusion, what is the difference between the dreams and this world? Can dreams be real? Are visions part of dream, real world, and real or unreal? Okay, how do you know that visions, if you get them, are real and not just hallucinations? Okay. Okay, now, there's a premise here that it says, if the whole world is an illusion. So the premise is that the whole world is an illusion. Right, now, can we question that premise? Is it an illusion? Sri Ramakrishna didn't like that expression, that terminology. He very often said, I don't like to call this world unreal. I don't like to say that it's unreal like a dream. His vision was that the world is a manifestation of Brahman. This world is real. He gave almost the opposite explanation of what we find in the classic example of Vedanta, that Brahman alone is real and this world is unreal, mithya, jagat mithya. He said that before the realization of God, this world is unreal. It meant that before the realization of God, we have a misconception about this world because we think that it's absolutely independently real. But after the realization of God, then the world is real because then we know its true nature. We know that it's nothing but Brahman. So if we take the snake in the rope, can we say that the snake, once we know that it's a rope, we know that there is substance to it, that it's not just a pure illusion, that we're misinterpreting it. But now we know that it's something real. So I'll question the premise of this. What we can say is that from one particular point of view, we can suspend our belief or even suspend the question with regard to the status of the world outside of our experience of it. So this is what I referred to earlier as the attitude of the branch of philosophy called phenomenology. Phenomenology takes everything as an object of experience. And we know this world as we experience this world. We don't know what this world is as a thing in itself. This is a very old distinction that we find. Of course, Kant became very famous for this. The thing in itself and the thing for us as we experience it. So the question of whether the world is real or unreal becomes more of an attitude. And Sri Ramakrishna was a very positive person. He liked to take this attitude that this world is a play of God. This is why he used the term lila, and instead of maya or mithya. He didn't say that this world is a dreamlike, or it's an illusion, or it's unimportant, or anything like that. It's the play of the Lord that way. So, if we go back to this, if the whole world is an illusion, what is the difference between the dreams and this world? From that point of view, from the point of view of experience, there's no difference. We can't make a distinction. But when we awaken from a dream, we have the feeling that it was unreal in the sense that the other characters in the dream didn't experience it. Suppose I have a dream and you're in my dream. And I wake up and I say, oh, didn't we have fun last night? We went to the movies, we had dinner, we did all that, and how did you enjoy it? They'll say, that was your dream. I didn't do that. So, on this level, even if we feel that this is somehow this cosmic dream of God, still, there's some sense that each and every individual in this dream is real, in the sense that they're also experiencing it, that there's a common universe. This is something that Swami Nikhilananda explains as not subjective idealism, but objective idealism. So we may say that this world is dreamlike or an illusion, but we won't say that that all of you are unreal. I won't waste my breath in talking to you if I don't think you exist. And at the same time, I can say that I don't have this conception of this universe as being as a materialistic type of conception. That's not my understanding of the universe. I see everything in terms of this projection of God, but this cosmic dreamer enters into each and every individual. So and this was Ramakrishna's vision, that he saw that each and every person was nothing but God himself or herself. The consciousness pulsating within everyone, and consciousness as the ground of everything. So he took a very positive view. We won't dismiss this world as a dream. We may say that the materialistic conception of this world is wrong. Once we have some higher vision, then we know that this is divine in nature, that way. Then visions in a dream. This we can only go by the words of Sri Ramakrishna, what he says, and so some of the other direct disciples, that there are certain types of dreams that we have, which we can call spiritual dreams, and which leave a very deep impression on us, different from other kinds of dreams. Whether metaphysically they're different, that's hard to say. Whether our ordinary dreams are just out of our imagination, whether spiritual dreams are God himself creates, it's hard to say any of that stuff. But we know that there are certain dreams that we have that leave a very strong and deep impression on us, the spiritual dreams, and we should treasure those things. We don't have to decide too much about them. And Sri Ramakrishna even says that there's a class of people who become swapna siddha. They attain illumination through dream. He said there are all different types of ways of attaining illumination. Kripa siddha, it can be just through grace, sadhana siddha, through spiritual practice, parak siddha. All of a second, just like that it comes. So all different types of that. So if we have a dream of a great soul, or we get some type of teaching, many received initiation in the dream even, we don't have to analyze it too much, but we should feel it's a great blessing to get that type of dream.
It is not Dohara, it is Dahara Akasha.
Oh, okay. That space within the heart.
Heart, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Dahara Akasha, yeah. Dahara Akasha.
Yeah, because our access to consciousness is through the mind. We've no other access to it. And just as each individual molecule of air is set in that Mahakasha, in that infinite space. So each thought, each experience that we have is set in that space of this infinite consciousness. Now, it was always believed that the seed of consciousness, from the individual point of view, was the heart. The ancient people in all cultures, this distinction between head and heart, that the heart is just for feelings and emotions, and that the head is for conceptual thought and all of that wasn't there. In fact, in Sanskrit, the term manas, it can mean a heart equally as well as mind. So it was always felt that there's something special about this heart center. Now, from a psychological point of view, the two inner organs that we feel are the lungs and the heart. We feel the beating of the heart. And when we experience emotion, when we experience love or anger, anything, then the heart beats faster, the breath also goes faster. So we have this connection between the feelings, physical feelings that we have in the heart center, and our mental state of mind. The other thing is, this is something Ramana Maharshi talks about, our sense of identification is here. When someone says, who said it, we won't say, I said it. We'll say, I said it. Point to the center. So there's some sense of identification there. So, when we try to think, where will be the location, where this Brahmapuram, Brahmadhara, this city of Brahman, this dwelling place of Brahman, The heart center is a very appropriate place. What does Thakur call it? Danka Marajaya, huh? Yeah, Danka Marajaya. That is a highly acclaimed place. That means that there's something arbitrary about it. Brahman dwells equally within the body, without the body, behind everything. But there's something very advantageous about meditating on the divine presence within the heart. For those who worship personal God, to picture the Ishta Devata dwelling within the heart, sitting on a lotus, or however we're told to meditate. But even in the Upanishadic period, they thought of this divine presence, Brahman, consciousness, as dwelling within the heart. Angushtamata, the size of a thumb. That simply means that no matter how small it is, it's like the donut hole. It's infinite. But we can find it there somehow. So that's why it's very helpful to practice meditation, trying to imagine that we're experiencing that divine presence within the heart center. Not the physical heart or anything, but this cave of the heart, or city of Brahman, or lotus of the heart, something like that.
So it's more like a location, not like in the context of Chidakasha, not in that context. More refers to a location.
It's both. When we sit for meditation, very quickly we want to try to forget this body idea completely. But in the very beginning, when we still have some sense of the physical presence, and we can, the breathing is there and everything is there, we can try to focus there and kind of feel, even in a physical sense a little bit, feel that presence there, but not hold on to this body idea, then give it up. So that's our entrance way. We can enter into that divine cave there and sit before the chosen ideal, then forget about the cave, forget about everything, just us and the chosen ideal, like that.
That is why it is more for the meditational purposes.
Yes.
It is a practice that has been described, Dahar Akash or Dahar Pundarika. That is, imagine, Pundarika means lotus. You imagine a lotus in the heart and your deity, your chosen deity sitting there, and concentrate on that. Even in the Kathopanishad, you say that what he was telling, that Angushta Matra Purushontaraatma Sada Jananam Hridaye Sannivishtaha Tam Swat Sharirat Pravricchet Munja Divaishikam Dhairyena. That it is to be meditated in your heart and then separate it from your body, just as the fine stem in the grass is to be separated very carefully from the outer covering. So like that, it is to be separated from all the physicality by meditating on it. When Sri Ramakrishna's disciple Latu Maharaj was attending a class on Kathopanishad, and then the one who was giving the class, what a beautiful, that it is an example, or that incident is so elevating. He immediately said, when he heard this, Swami Shuddhananda was sitting by his side, and he said, Sujir, Pandit thik bole che. The Pandit said, very correct. That is how it happens. That is how it happens, that the body, all physicality gets separated, and then you realize the truth. So that is how meditate in the heart. That Sri Ramakrishna said another thing also, that you meet God in the heart. That is where God's parlor, sitting parlor is, Baitak Khana. So, next one.
Okay. Mahalaya, does this mean womb of creation? Does that suggest the reappearance of creation from the womb? So in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the suggestion of reappearance of world exists as seed. This is Mahalaya. we can say womb, it does suggest that after pralaya, that everything will go into an involuted form so that it can evolve again. Swamiji talks about this evolution and involution, that just as a tree, once the whole tree grows, and then an acorn falls, the entire tree will be involuted, involved in that small one, so that another tree can come and it'll go on in cycles like that. Now, from the individual point of view, when one attains liberation, one attains enlightenment, then it's said that all of our karma is burned except prarabdha karma. This prarabdha karma, this will be the karma that has already started working and has to be finished up. So when we come back from nirvikalpa samadhi, just as when we wake up in the morning, when we come back, all of the samskaras, seeds, whatever, karmas, however we think of it, that they recede down to the bottom. Just as like in a little pond, we have little things floating around. If it's very quiet, it'll go down to the bottom. But then you stir it up, the same things will come back up again. So this explains how when we wake up as the same people we were when we went to sleep. If we go into this nirvikalpa samadhi, and the mind can come down from that or any other higher state, certain things will change and certain things won't. These basic samskaras that we have, they may be changed, but in the sense that the harmful element will disappear. But personality traits, all of those things will remain the same. Sri Ramakrishna gives two very nice illustrations. One, he says, if you have a string that's on the ground and it's curved and it has a certain shape to it, and if you burn that, you set it on fire, the whole thing will burn and it will leave a little trail of ash, exactly the same shape and curves and everything as the string. So it gives the appearance. The same appearance of the string. If you don't look very carefully, you may think that it's still a string, but you can't tie anything with it. It doesn't have any substance to it. You blow on it, puff it, and everything goes away. So we may have the same personality traits. Say Sri Ramakrishna, the same type of dishes he liked before samadhi he liked afterwards. So some things won't change. Same personality, same sense of humor. But he says that anything that binds us, anything that can harm other people, those things will be gone. There'll be some transformation. So the sword that touches there's a stone, this chintamani or sparshamani, that if you touch it, any metal will turn into gold. Now if you take a sword that's made out of steel, that's strong, you can cut through armor, you can kill people with it. You touch it to that, it turns into gold. Gold is too soft to be used to hurt anyone. It can't be used in battle. It can't be used in fighting. It'll have the same shape as the sword, but it can't be used to harm anyone. So these things, when we go to sleep at night, these vasanas, samskaras, these mental traits, personality things, all of these, they go into some sleeping mode. And then just as a computer, when the computer comes out of sleeping mode, it has all the same stuff in it as before. So we have the same stuff in it. So that's what's called this kind of womb, or this just as we have this unconscious storehouse of old experiences, impressions, memories, and everything. So the same with this cosmic mind, something like that.
Can you explain karmic debt for me? Well, very difficult, you say. I don't know whether it is my karma to explain the karmic debt of... Well, karmic debt means just like you incur debt in terms of, say, dollars. The dollar debt is there. The debt of certain things that you take from somebody, you have to return that. So karma, whatever karma we do, we have to pay for it. Everything has its result. So that is the debt of karma. I do something and I feel now it is done, but it is not done. Just as you borrow some money from somebody, if you borrow something from me, don't try, but it is. Suppose you borrow some money from me, then you think that I got it, now forget. No, I will be after you. Hey! So, whenever we do something, the results run after us. They, whether good or bad, the results of the karma, even if you die, the dollar debt may be done. If you give up your body, your creditors will not be able to get you in the next life. But your karma, that will continue to haunt you, or whatever. Haunt, not exactly, it is not always bad, but it will be following you all the time. There is a nice Sanskrit verse that says, what happens when a person dies, that all the wealth that we accumulate, many nice things, a beautiful house and so forth, what happens to that? It remains where it was. It doesn't come with you. And even your very dear close ones, your spouse and children and all that, your very dear friends, they come with you only up to that funeral or that burial place or the cremation place. They don't accompany you any further than that. So, but what does not leave you? Whatever karma you have accumulated, good or bad, that will follow you even after that. So that is what is called karmic debt. I don't know if I have explained adequately, but that is something just to give you an analogy.
Regarding this, what you said right now, regarding that, but like there's a thinking also which says God is there in both evil and good. So if you do all your tasks thinking that God is real, not you're on the doer, but the God is the doer. He's the master. He's doing what He does to do. If you think about that, then how can you have that?
That is putting another spin on it. That it is. Then you need not worry about it. Let God worry about it. And then you should be quite resigned to it if God makes you pay. Because God is doing everything, so God is making you pay for it. What can you do about it? See, this is at different levels we are talking. Like you see in a movie, somebody wrote the script that, well, A murders B. Now, who has really murdered? The author has done the murder. Because author wrote the script. So author has murdered, that caused that murder, A murdering B. But then within the movie, that author will not get caught. The one who has actually murdered in movie will have to pay for it. So similarly, at the level where I have that ego, it is kind of a movie ego. God is only, you can think of, as the script writer. That He doesn't do anything there. Although everything is being done by God, God doesn't do anything at all. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna made it very clear that nadatte kasyachit papam nachaiva sukrutam vibhu, that I do not take anybody's sins or anybody's good deeds. So, like that, it is God does at a very different level. Like so, the effects will have to be. You have to remain. You have to judge at that level only. If you want to judge everything at God's level, judge at God's level. If you want to judge at the human level, then judge it at human level. If one doesn't have the ego that I did it, then no karma there at all. That also very beautifully explained by Krishna, that yasya naham krito bhavo buddhir yasya na lipyate. The one who doesn't have this idea that I am the doer, and there's no ego at all, that person, even if he destroys the whole universe, doesn't do anything. There is no karma debt to that person, because there is no ego function. But if I have the ego, I did it. You know that beautiful story Sri Ramakrishna used to tell about the gardener? That gardener, he would say always, I planted this thing, this is such a beautiful garden that I have made. And then a cow enters and this fellow kills the cow because the cow destroyed the garden. And now got scared. After all, you see, the big sin for Hindus, killing cow means it is a huge sin. So the sin comes to him, but he remembers, no, not me. After all, this hand did it. And presiding deity of hand is Indra, so go to that. And then Indra says, okay, let me test it. So he takes the form of a casual visitor and started admiring the garden. Oh, how nice, the person who did it must be very skillful, and so forth. And he comes, I did it, this was. And while describing, he comes right where the cow was dead. Who killed the cow? Now he couldn't say that somebody else. Up till now he was saying, I did it. So the one who does it gets the karma. If we say, if we don't have the awareness that I did it, Brahmajnana, no karma. As he was telling, all karma is burned there. No karma debt remains at all. But if there is I, the doer, then you pay for it. Then you pay for it. When there is no doership, one of our teachers in training center used to give very nice example. There is somebody who has been assigned the work of giving the death sentence, executing the death sentence. Now he is not really killing. He has no I am the doer. He is just hanging that fellow. He is the hangman. So he therefore is not prosecuted. Hey, you killed him. And he was just executing the judge's order. So he has no that I am doing it. So therefore he does not get punishment for that. But if he does the same work at his home, say, hangs his wife, then it is a completely different scenario. Although the act is same, but there is I am the doer, and so gets the punishment also for it.
There was a man who bought a farm, and his farm was in terrible shape. It was just a complete mess. And he worked very, very hard, day and night, to clean everything up and to work the fields and do everything. Then one day his minister came to look at everything, and the minister wanted to inject a little spiritual idea. So he said, I see you, together with the help of the Lord, have done such a wonderful job with this farm. And he said, yes, thank you, but you should have seen it when the Lord had it all by himself. Okay, now the next question is similar, but a very good question. I like this question. How can we differentiate between God's will and the ego's plan for our lives? We like this idea. Everyone would like to think that what we're doing is God's will. And we often wonder, how do we know? Are we fooling ourselves? Are we just pretending? Is it really what we want? Is it really what we imagine, we project to be God's will? We have again, a very big question of understanding the proper level with this question. We may say, well, if God alone is the ultimate reality, if God alone dwells within all beings, then whatever happens is God's will. And from the very high point of view, it's true. But from our point of view, we really have to take responsibility. Sri Ramakrishna says that the Divine Mother herself gives us a feeling of agency, so that we'll take responsibility for our actions, and that we'll try to do the right thing and not harm people and all of that. So, suppose we accept that. Okay, it's my decision, I have to take responsibility. Then does it have to be a question of my ego? It doesn't have to be. If we can make life decisions based on some idea of dharma, of what is the right thing to do, if we can eliminate this selfish attitude, this ulterior motive to things, if we can try to follow the teachings of these great souls, if we can try to follow Scripture, if we can use our sense of discrimination, that's probably the closest that we can come to feeling that we're doing God's will. Or at least feel that if there is a God, personal God, who's looking over us and watching and deciding, is this a good thing, that we can have some feeling that we hope that we're living in such a way that it would please such a God. We don't know if there is, we don't know if there isn't, we don't know how much free will we really have, but we have that feeling. So, from my point of view, we have to take responsibility for what we do and try to eliminate the ego. So it's really kind of a false set of options here. It doesn't. We may say that I don't know what God's will is, so don't ask me, am I doing God's will? I don't know what it is, but that doesn't mean that I'm acting out of ego. It may mean that I'm acting out of a sense of agency, that I feel that I have to make decisions. That's all. We're always faced with decisions, and we have to decide. This is one of the main themes of the Kathopanishad, that day in and day out we're faced with decisions with two choices. One is what's easy and fun and pleasurable and pleasant and everything, and the other what's the right thing to do, what will lead to a higher goal, what will be beneficial for other people. If we can learn to choose what they call shreyas over preyas, to me this is about the best that we can do. So many atrocities are committed with this idea that this is God's will. Mm. That religions, the people who think that they know God's will, even to attack other people and destroy cultures and to exploit countries, all of that has been done in this name of God's will. So it's a very dangerous idea. Only those who have absolutely eliminated this ego and selfishness and desire and everything can have some feeling that they're acting in accordance with some divine will. But it's better for us to have a little humility, feel that yes, I know that I'm limited in my understanding, but I'll try and do the best that I can. And if Swamiji were here, if Thakur and Mother were here, and if they could see what I'm doing, and if they could tell me, they would say, yes, my child, very nice. I'm very happy that you tried to do what you did. That's that type of feeling. I often appreciate this idea we find with evangelical Christians, that constantly they want to ask themselves, what would Jesus do? It's a very nice idea, beautiful idea. That we don't have to say that we know God's will, but we can ask ourselves, what do we think if a divine person came to earth and they had to make these choices? What would they do? And if we really have some sense that we think they would do this, then that's what we do. That's how we decide. So it's not based on ego, it's not based on personal desire, it's not based on any ulterior motive, name and fame or anything like that. Then we can feel that we're living in harmony with some divine will, something like that. No, I like this idea. Take turns. Gonjakar.
Well, when the road turns, it is good to take turn. Otherwise, where the road is going straight, how can I take turn, you say? Is there a difference between the path of self-inquiry, asking, who am I, and formal meditation? Depends on how your meditational practices are. Meditation can be of several different types, and not that in every type of meditation you have to keep on having this question, who am I? There is one type of meditation on this path that keep on self-inquiry, and that is very good, but that is not the only way. It is one of the very important ways, no doubt. But then there are other types of meditation where you think of God, concentrate on God, do not even think as to who am I and such things. For certain constitution that becomes more suitable than this self-inquiry as to who am I. And that is, so these two things could be separate. That the meditation can be done in so many different ways, and asking who am I is one of them. So that is the difference between them. Do you want to add?
No. There was somebody left. I have a question. Is it better to answer these questions quickly and try to answer all of them, or to take our time and do as many as time allows?
We can extend a little bit. Instead of 5:45, we can extend it to say 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Huh?
Thakur mentions that all those who come to this place, meaning himself, that this is their last birth. Do such devotees experience nirvikalpa samadhi at the time of their deaths? Okay, now first of all, what exactly he meant by that statement is open to interpretation. And how specifically he meant to this particular Sri Ramakrishna incarnation, or we had the same problem in Gita. Was he talking about just to come to God, who become religious? We're allowed a tiny bit of fanaticism. We don't want to be too overly non-fanatic. We can have a tiny bit of fanaticism and feel there's something special about this Ramakrishna incarnation. Whether it's literally true or not is very hard to say. Mathur Babu himself, who served Sri Ramakrishna and did everything for him, was so devoted to him, saw him as an incarnation of both Shiva and Kali, practically worshipped him. Even he, Sri Ramakrishna said, would have to have another birth. So how literally we take this is up to us. I don't want to get into having to defend it or explain it or anything, but the second part of this, nirvikalpa samadhi at the time of their death. Fortunately, we have many descriptions of the passing away of some of the great disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. And there's a great variety to that. Many of them had visions, many of them saw Sri Ramakrishna, many saw Holy Mother or the direct disciples, even we have their direct words, because there were people there, and many times they would speak out loud. They would say, "Oh, spread a seed, don't you see, Thakur has come." So we know that many of them have had different types of experiences, which don't necessarily correspond to what we call nirvikalpa samadhi. But once that actual life leaves the body, what the state of the mind is at that time is impossible for us to know. And there's a certain tradition in our order that those who are great devotees of Sri Ramakrishna will go to a Ramakrishna Loka. So that means that it's not exactly Nirvikalpa Samadhi at that point, that just as there's a belief that there's a Brahma Loka where enlightened souls will go to exhaust their merit, their punya, and then once that's exhausted, then they'll emerge in Brahman, that there could be something, not just the Ramakrishna Loka, but whoever has any devotion to any. These may be subjective things. They're very hard to say. But the one thing we can say is that many of these disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, householders as well as monastic disciples, had some type of vision or some type of experience at the end of their lives, which indicates that it was a very joyful passing, and that whether or not they immediately merge in Brahman, as in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but that it represents some type of enlightenment or liberation, something like that. Can you elaborate on that?
No, that's
okay. That's a tough
enough.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm going through ahead of time and picking out the tough one. No, that's not a tough one.
How can you meditate when your mind is restless? This question really is like that. That is how my teacher explained it in a nice little booklet he has written, and when he was talking to us, he actually took up this question. That how can you meditate when your mind is restless? He said it is akin to asking that how can you go to doctor to get treatment when you are sick. Because you are sick, you have to go to doctor to get treated. Because our mind is restless, we have to practice meditation. If the mind is not restless, then we don't need to practice meditation at all. So it is only because the mind is restless, we have to remove that restlessness, to get over it, to transcend it. There are not adequate words to exactly say that, but because of the restlessness, this meditation is to be practiced. As the yoga aphorisms in their very second aphorisms, it says, Yogash chitta vritti nirodha. That there are the modifications of mind, restlessness, and yoga is to be practiced to bring it under control. So now, if you do not have that restlessness, no need for meditation. Just as if your body is perfectly healthy, then you don't need to go to doctor that, doctor, I have no disease at all. Can you suggest some medication? You never do that. So, if your mind is restless, then there is the need for meditation. Thank you.
Swami Ashokananda, he said very often some members or devotees, he'd see they didn't come to the center for a while, so he would ask them, why haven't you come? They said, I was feeling depressed, the mind wasn't in a good shape, anything like that. So he said, that's exactly when you have to come. That when you're cold, that's when you have to come and sit by the fire. Otherwise, not necessary. So exactly the same. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Maya is often, then in brackets, always, characterized as she. Is there any significance to this description of gender? Grammatically, it's feminine, the term, Maya, and Shakti is feminine, Prakriti, all of these are feminine. There's a philosophical reason for these things. There are different systems that explain this ultimate reality in terms of two principles. And one is always thought of as male and the other as female. The male principle is generally thought of as the inactive element. This is why we see Shiva lying on his back motionless, and the female as the active element. It seems to be just a common thing. We also talk about Mother Nature, and possibly it can be explained in terms of that when a child is born, the mother is the one who gives birth to the child. The child comes out of the mother's very person. And there's Maya, which is also Shakti, which is also nature, is that out of which the universe comes. So we have this idea that there has to be a combination. If we simply start with the Brahman, Brahman alone exists, and Brahman is actionless. There's no way to account for the universe. We need some second principle, which in Vedanta is called Maya, and this Maya is also, as much as they don't like it to be, it's also a type of Shakti. A type of power, the Chit Shakti, to project the whole universe. So as power, as agency, as activity, it will fall on this female side of this, looking at realities as a combination of a whole. This is why all of the gods and goddesses, why they have to go together. You can't have Brahma without Saraswati, Vishnu without Lakshmi, like that. And man and wife, they have to be a whole. You can't have a priest perform his duties without a wife there. So there's this idea that we have these two halves. They represent the two aspects of reality. So we have Shiva, Shakti, we have this Purusha, Prakriti, we have this idea. Sometimes you'll even see this Artha Narishwara, this form where half of the body is the image of Shiva and the other half is the image of Parvati or the Divine Mother, some form. So you'll see physical attributes of the male on one side and the female on the other side, but it represents one whole. And as I say, it's always the creative aspect which is associated with motherhood and that's why it gets the feminine side, and the inactive element, which will be the consciousness element, that is connected with the male side. So we have this very nice philosophy that they have to go together. One without the other can't do anything. There's something called this Andha Pangu Nyaya, the blind man and the lame man. That if someone is blind, they can walk, but they don't know where to go. And if someone is lame, they can see where to go, but they can't walk. So the blind person will take the lame person on his shoulders, and the lame person will direct the blind person where to go. So we have this combination always in these different theories. Even with this Brahman, who's Advaita Vedanta, we have to have this female element in the form of Maya, and we have it in Sankhya, we have it in the Shakti philosophy. So that's basically, and I think it goes back to this fact that it's the woman who actually gives birth to the child. So we look at that female element, the Divine Mother, the goddess, as the one who gives birth to the whole universe. You can choose which one.
Okay.
Okay. Did that answer the question? Okay.
What is something good to say to people who don't believe in what?
Reincarnation?
Reincarnation. Some little novel that can be given. Thanks. Thanks means that is not the part of the question. It is. So what is to say? Well, it depends on what if the person, first of all, if the person wants to know. If the person doesn't want to know, then best thing is to keep quiet. That is the best answer in most of the times, If a person really wants to know, then there is some point in saying something. And then you can ask that, depending on how that person is asking, that what is the idea, that why don't you have belief in reincarnation? Let me hear that first. What is against reincarnation? And then if that person can tell something against reincarnation, then you can answer that maybe. But that first question itself will take away most of the wind, because there is almost nothing that one can say about that reincarnation. This is against reincarnation. There is actually nothing that anybody can point out. Only one thing is usually pointed out, and that has been very nicely answered by Swami Vivekananda a few times in his different lectures, that if there is reincarnation, why do I not remember what I did in the past births? The answer to that, do you remember what you did when you were 2 months old? Does anybody remember that? And hardly anybody will say that, yes, when I was 2 months old, I did this and that and that, and nobody remembers. Does it mean that you were never 2 months old? Well, it is as foolish as that, really speaking. That if there is yesterday, I was yesterday, is there a dispute about that? I am today. No, I don't feel that I was not yesterday. Go back like this. Where can you stop? Really, there is no place you can stop at. If you understand this exact idea that you are not this body, then there won't be any problem in understanding reincarnation. First thing is to understand that you are not the body. If somebody is refusing to understand this, then of course let that person live in ignorance. That is the best thing to do. I would suggest that.
One popular reason given for not believing in reincarnation is scientific reason.
What
There
scientific?
is no proof of that. How will you prove it? Like, and in today's technological world, everyone wants to prove that something exists.
Well, you see, this is a very funny idea. Funny in the sense being ridiculous. That it is.
Don't take it personally.
I know.
No, it is.
It's just my thought.
See, what do you want by way of proof? You have to specify what do you understand by the word proof here. Can they tell that this is what I want as proof of this? What would they take? It depends on that scientist. What will be convincing to that scientist? You have to see that something, what the scientist would believe, here by the word scientist I mean the physical scientist, those who want everything to be brought at the level of the 5 senses for getting the verification. Now this by its very nature cannot be brought at that level, and so they will never find a proof of that. So you have to see in one, I like to quote that very often, the example given by Sir Arthur Eddington about the method of science. It's a beautiful book, Philosophy of Science. And he says how we scientists work. He was one of the top most scientists of last century, the father of astrophysics, Sir Arthur Eddington. And he says, how do we work, we scientists? That we take the net of our 5 senses and put it on the world. He says if somebody, for example, wants to study the aquatic animals, aquatic creatures, then he goes with a net puts it in the water and then examines the catch. And then after examining, comes to two conclusions. One is that every creature is at least 2 inches long. And the second conclusion is that every creature can survive only in water. After putting net a few times more, he changes his second conclusion. That because he probably catches a frog and is able to survive outside water. But his first conclusion always remains the same, because the distance between the two threads of the net is 2 inches. So anything smaller than 2 inches will not get caught in it. And thus, if you say that there are things smaller than 2 inches, where is the proof? The question is like that. Where is the proof? You by very definition make your net so big with these limitations and then ask proof for it. Not possible. You have to make a finer net and then you can seek the proof for it. Most of these so-called scientists, I say so-called because most of them are not scientific. I am sorry to say that, but most scientists are not scientific in their temperament. They are scientists by name, but they lack the scientific attitude of examining things at deeper and deeper level. So, when they are ready to refine their net, then they can get the proof.
Can I take a comment about that?
Okay.
I'll have to refute it actually, because I'm a man of science.
Oh well, I know.
Science is nothing but knowledge, and knowledge is progressive, as we all know. So what we didn't know 100 years ago, now we know. And so what we know, our physical body is made of certain chemicals. And we also know by now, if you burn it or however way we dispose it, we know what happens to that. So if you say that the body will reincarnate simply by burning or something, that doesn't really hold much water. But what we do not know scientifically at this point, we may know actually 100 years from now, but what we don't know at this point is what is called spirit. I mean, what is spirit is again, Swami of Atmajnananda's theory is specifically called Maya, or it's something called spell. So, I mean, what I'm simply saying is that argument can go both ways. So, there is no scientific proof. I hard to believe.
Well, it is hard to believe, you know. Believe is not something that the scientists should be looking at, you know. If it is a matter of belief, it is not a matter of proof. Exactly.
Let me throw in my 2 cents, because there's a very interesting way to answer this question. If we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna carefully, we find that M himself didn't have much faith in many of the things that we take for granted, even Swamiji himself. This divine incarnation, this reincarnation, samskaras, many of these things. And Sri Ramakrishna was very gentle with him. We find him saying, "Sir, I don't have much faith in the samskaras, impressions from a past lifetime. Will that be harmful for me in my spiritual life?" And Sri Ramakrishna will say, No, it's enough if you believe that everything is possible with God. He'll give things like that. But gently he'll say, "Oh, you see what good samskaras he has." And then gently M will say, "Yes, sir, now I have to admit it. This must be the reason." And so he never forced anyone to believe anything. But he would show the logic behind it. He would show how it may be beneficial spiritually. Reincarnation, Swamiji himself says in some places that this is a working hypothesis. That as of right now, it's the most logical and consistent and best answer we have. We don't know exactly how everything works in this world. We really don't. But there's so many advantages to believing that that there's infinite scope for us all to attain realization. It's such a beautiful idea. Rather than we have this one life, we either succeed or we fail, and then we have to suffer for eternity for what we do in one lifetime. So there are many, many positive reasons to believe in reincarnation, and ultimately belief, these doctrines that we believe in, it's a question of what appeals to us, and not always what appeals to the mind, what appeals to the heart as well. So whether we can prove from a scientific point of view that reincarnation is true, there still be maybe many reasons for us to like that idea, for us to think that it makes a great deal of sense, that it helps explain many things. I won't say that it's a proof of reincarnation, but it's a good way of our understanding why some people are born with certain skills and talents, and why some people undergo suffering and others don't. So it's very helpful that way. But there can be many very spiritual, good people in this world who don't believe in it. And we don't have to force them to believe in it. They may be very liberal in their views on a lot of things. And really we shouldn't take this attitude that it's up to us to make sure everyone sees the things the same way that we do. Okay, now, I can do a few quick ones.
Yeah.
Okay. When you have to work with a particularly difficult boss whose ego and arrogance is making the work environment very demoralizing, how or what can I do as an individual or employee to not be demotivated and focus on the task at hand? Do your best. If the situation becomes intolerable, then you leave. Otherwise, do your best. Or if there's some way to remedy the situation, if it's an abusive boss and it has to be reported, and you think you won't get in trouble for it, these are really questions of common sense. Really, we can practice patience and toleration, all of these things to a certain degree. Swamiji says for the householder you have to fight back sometimes also. So that's everyone's individual decision to weigh one thing against the other, what the results are of doing it this way or that way, and just try to make the best decision. Okay, this one we more or less did. Is consciousness a manifestation of mind? Consciousness and mind are almost inseparable, but consciousness is not a manifestation of anything. It's not a secretion of the brain, the way bile is a secretion of the liver. This is why we call it the absolute. There's no way to explain how anything can combine to form consciousness. Every combination of anything, the result will be reducible to the cause. If you analyze the chemical composition of an egg, you'll find that there's nothing in it that's not in the chicken. So there's no way that we can explain how the brain and DNA and all of these things can yield something so absolutely different from it as consciousness is. Yeah.
So could we compare consciousness with energy? Would that be a good analogy? Because energy, like we know, can neither be destroyed nor be created. It only transforms from one thing to another thing. So would that be an analogy for that?
There's no analogy for consciousness. We would need Nirupama. Everything that we say about it's the analogy will work on one level. And on that point, that we can never lose the energy, but consciousness is unchanging. We shouldn't confuse, because this, say, Akasha Prana, Swamiji talks about, or this Prakriti, manifest, unmanifest, all of these things, that also has a certain infinite, eternal nature to it, but changeful. And sometimes consciousness is explained in contradiction to that. So if it's helpful from that point of view, okay, but we have to know that we can't even reduce consciousness to energy. Energy, matter, something like that. Something completely different.
Life, energy and consciousness are the same thing? Life, energy and consciousness.
Life, energy and consciousness. No, consciousness is this life. We can say this consciousness as it somehow evolves into this manifest universe, then this idea of life, of course, is part of it. But as pure consciousness, because life has a beginning and an end. Life is, there has to be some force. When that prana is withdrawn, life is withdrawn. Consciousness can't be withdrawn. It doesn't grow out of anything. So even that, has to be a distinction that's made.
What scientists say, however, energy is changing.
Yes.
Energy changes to electrical energy.
Yes.
Then it goes to mechanical energy.
Right.
And consciously itself is not changing.
Right.
Can equidistant.
Right. Okay. If there's no difference between the experience of a real world experience and the dream world experience, does it mean that the experiencer can accrue karma, good or bad, in a dream? Good karma, good dream. Okay. The standard answer to this is that maybe from a metaphysical point of view, we can say that this world is not really different from a dream, but we have some sense of free will, whether it's absolutely true or not true, some sense of free will in this waking state that we don't have in the dream state. So it is maintained that we neither accrue nor exhaust karma in the dream state. That it's simply the result of past experience. Whether this is 100% true or not, I have no idea. But generally this is what we hear, right? Okay. Ceremonies.
I thought you
can
were
do it.
doing it.
I got tired. So there are two left here. Then I can...
Meditation is the process by which the body and mind is put to sleep, all the while being awake. Okay, in that sense, okay. Could that be an appropriate definition of meditation? Depends, how one understands it. It is to put it to sleep all the while being awake. So, it needs some more explanation, but could be true that, yes, it is steady, steadfast, but yet not unconscious. So in that sense, there is no turbulence there, just as a sleeping person doesn't have turbulence. So to that extent this analogy holds, that yes, it is putting it to sleep, but while being fully awake. Yeah, one can understand it to that, but that doesn't mean, so let me sleep and try to be awake. That is not the way to meditate, you see.
So in one song, I put my sleep to sleep.
Yes, that is a very good song. Yes, I have put my sleep to sleep. Means I don't sleep, I just think of God all the time. I am conscious of. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Mere ghum padiye chhi.
In Vedanta philosophy, guru is a must to attain to the supreme state, but according to Buddhist philosophy, it is not necessary and you are your own guru. What are your thoughts on this? I'd never heard that. Buddhism also has some idea of guru and faith in the guru. But I want to address, because we hear this question very often, is it necessary to have a guru? As if it's a horrible thing. I absolutely don't understand this. It's like, well, is it necessary to take castor oil if I want to get over this illness? It tastes horrible. Right. It's such a blessing to have the grace of a guru. Why anyone would ask that question? That we should think it's the greatest grace of God to have take shelter with a great soul. A tremendous thing. Now, is it possible to have God realization without one? Maybe. But so what? If somebody says, well, yeah, it's possible, but it's 1,000,000 times harder. Then we say, oh, okay, great, I don't need one. We want to do the thing that is most helpful. It makes perfect sense. I think of it this way. There's buried treasure under the bed of the ocean. Now, can we just, without knowing where it is, can we just keep diving down and will we ever find it? Maybe. We may find it. Suppose somebody says, there's a chain attached to that. And I know someone who can give you a portion of the chain that's out on the land. And that person will tell you, if you just go link by link with that chain, that you'll reach a point where you can dive under the ocean, you'll be able to breathe somehow, and you keep getting closer and closer, and you know for certain, you don't know how long it'll be, but you know for certain, you have that chain in your hand, and every time you move one link closer, you know you're closer to that treasure, and you'll definitely get that treasure. Who won't do that? So this question of necessary, to me, is such a silly question. Is a tremendous blessing if we have that opportunity to take shelter with a great soul, and to get the blessings of a great soul and the teachings of a great soul. We should jump at it. Very great. This is God's grace. We wonder, what does God's grace mean? When we have the refuge of a holy person, then this is God's grace. Oh, last one.
When I try to meditate on the abstract and lofty ideas, for example, infinite ocean of consciousness, the natural tendency of mind tries to associate a form to it which limits or sometimes even defeats its purpose. How should I overcome this obstacle? Well, it is our anthropomorphic need to think of our ultimate goal or God as form. It is very rare that some person can think of that without form. Everything that we think or feel, we use a form to do that. Somebody asked me that, does God has form? I asked him, does your wife have a form? If you say this is my wife, so it is continuously changing, you say. It is not the same, and still to think of your wife, you use a form. Because this is an anthropomorphic need. It is our human nature. Swami Vivekananda has dealt this subject very well. That when you go beyond your human limitations, then you will not be needing a form. He says that I also used to have this idea of formless. You know, he was a member of Brahma Samaj and had signed officially that I will not accept God with form. And then he says, because of this, I had to learn everything in my spiritual life by sitting at the feet of a person who has in his religious life everything with form. So therefore, he also says, what do we think when we say formless? We think of the vast sky. It is not formless, it is a form really. A big form, that's all. We think of ocean, as it is mentioned here, ocean. Is it formless? There is a form to it. Therefore, because it has a form, you do not confuse ocean with sky. Because there is a form, different, distinct form. So, they are also really forms. We are not, our brain program doesn't allow us to think without form unless we advance and go beyond it. Our abstract thinking capabilities are really limited. And therefore, even when our teacher used to teach geometry theorems, would draw a figure, a triangle, three angles add up to two right angles, would draw a triangle. And now that is only a particular example. It is not really the whole triangle. All triangles are not like that. Triangle is a concept, but to feel that you need a figure. So also to feel the infinite we need a form. It is a kind of need for almost all of us. So there is nothing wrong in actually therefore accepting this idea that let me, instead of struggling uselessly and to no avail actually, to understand the form and the formless, that yes, it is a form, but then the reality, it is not limited by the form. Use the form, like you eat something, say ice cream, you take it in some cup, a form. But then that is not the ice cream itself, is not a form, It is, so you have everything with form that has an aspect that goes beyond form too. So to remember that is important. While dealing with form, Sri Ramakrishna, in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you read at many times the discussion on this form, with form or without form. So it is good to use the form, whatever form. If somebody feels that the form of ocean is very good, that's fine. If somebody tries to connect with a person like form, that also is good. Depends on what the teacher has taught and also what is personally convenient and suitable to connect to the ideal for any person.
What about in Judaism? How do they do it? God is supposed to be formless.
Well, I am no authority on that, Yusuf, so I cannot say exactly. But there must be some. Therefore, there are forms there too. He can tell more better.
There
Yeah.
are mystical schools of Judaism that will have different types of meditations. Even there's a type of throne mythology where we picture God seated on a throne, like that, and chariot theology, different things. These are all for the sake of meditation and to help us. Now, one thing, just to follow up on what Swamiji said, a very nice example again was Sri Ramakrishna and M. Because Sri Ramakrishna knew that M liked this idea of meditation on the absolute, formless reality of God. Now, what did he do? He said, one day take me to this Muddy Shields garden house. There's a pond there with tame fish. People, there's a little bridge that goes across. They stand there and they throw little pieces of bread, and the fish come and they swim. Seeing these fish swim so joyfully, knowing that no one will kill them or anything, will give you some sense of what it means to swim in the ocean of the Absolute. So something that has nothing, what do fish have to do with the Brahman that way and everything? But it's a very concrete type of meditation that nevertheless gives one the idea of this infinite freedom, which is one of the attributes of this formless Brahman, that type of thing. But we need form. The mind can't focus on the formless. Whenever we have this body of water, if we want that water, we have to scoop it out. And if we scoop it out, water is formless, but it's going to take the shape of the pitcher that we use. The only way we can avoid that is we simply dive into the water. Otherwise, and that means that we're just destroying the mind, merging the mind. If we want to use the mind, then it'll have to take some form. It'll take the shape of the mind itself, that container that it will go into.
Actually, the meditation is now entered the lexicon of US Army, because there are people actually regularly have to meditate. I'm sure they are not meditating on reincarnation or God or anything like that. So obviously they are meditating on some form, whatever they can come up with. So before they are, this one the form you do meditation.
Or there are meditations you just focus on the breath. There are many things that don't involve visualization even, or on the sound, on the home. So that there are all different types. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, she wants to say something.
Then Raj also.
Does God always need a name, or it can stand without a name?
Does form need a name? Generally, we associate mantra and ishta devata and mantra. and there's such a strong conviction about the Nam and Nami, the name and that which is named are one and the same. Rama and his name are one and the same. That in Vedanta, Hindu tradition, that the name becomes very important. Is it absolutely necessary? That I can't say that it's absolutely necessary, but it's helpful. There's such a strong association between the name and the object named. And with regard to different names of God, the name is about the only thing that we know that is concrete for us. I sometimes think of in India, this idea of arranged marriage. Right, you're in one village, the other person's in the other village, and you hear that a girl has been chosen for the boy, a boy has been chosen for the girl. They don't know anything about each other, but as soon as they hear the name, it says, oh, her name is Radha. Then some feeling of love, there's something hooked, something, then the boy will keep thinking of Radha. She'll say, oh, he's Rama. She'll keep thinking of that. So the name is something that gives us something to hang on to. We don't know God, but we know God's name. Sometimes we'll hear that. So whether it's absolutely necessary or not, I don't know, but it's definitely helpful. That the mind, by hearing the name, repeating the name, the thought will come, because the name and the thought are inseparable. And ultimately the name and the reality are inseparable. So it's helpful, at least, from that point of view. Maharaj, can you add to that?
Any specification first generates the name. That even if you say, I don't want to give it any name, that becomes the name of that. That it is, it should not be named. In that popular book, that somebody was never to be named. Harry Potter, yeah. Harry Potter, correct.
The nameless one.
That the nameless one. So, should not be named became that person's name, you see.
We had a Swami Atmajnananda.
Atmajnananda, yes.
Yeah.
So that became the name. Name has actually, what he was telling, very correct idea. Name has the power to conjure form, and therefore name is more powerful than form, as put by Tulsidas.
Yes.
Tulsidas says that with name you can reach the form. If I do not know you, if I just get your name and then I can call, hey, who is this? And then that person would say, hey. So the name helps you to get the thing. So the reverse doesn't hold. If you have the thing, you won't know, you may not get to the name of it. But if you have the name, then you get the thing. So name is far more powerful than the form. And it is in the spiritual practice, really, it is so very helpful. With name actually gives stability, the sense of its being. Nothing is there but just name. What is Yogatmananda? Form keeps on changing. What gives you the idea that this is the same person? The name survives, So, because of the name, you get the sense of permanence to it. Otherwise, there is really nothing. The particles keep on changing all the time. So, name is very important.